What it do, J Crew? It's your girl Jasmine. I'm back with another video. I'm sorry it's been a while since I posted, but today I have another one for you, and we will be talking about PhD fundings, all things related to it, stipends, ways to get funded, things to ask for, and things to look for. So if this is relevant to you, or if you're interested, keep watching. So I'm going to get right into it, and we're going to start off by talking about the big financial items that are associated with grad schools, particularly PhD programs. So the first big thing that you should ask about, that you should look for, is if your fees are going to be covered in your tuition waiver or whatever your funding packet is. So fees can range from a few hundred to a few thousand each semester of the PhD program. And it's important to know ahead of time if this is something that you all have to cover or something that will be funded, because it is a big chunk of your income, or it could be a big chunk of your income that you have to account for. So make sure you ask about the fees and if these are going to be covered. Another important thing to know about, to talk about, to ask about is healthcare. If the program will be covering your healthcare, or if it's something that you have to get outside of your program, and if they'll be covering other things like dental and vision, which is usually considered like separate from the normal healthcare, like the baseline healthcare packaging. But it is important to know, especially if you have health conditions, if you have children, if you have dependents, whatever it may be. So that's something definitely to ask about when you're trying to figure out the whole financial aspect of your PhD, because that could be a big item. So the next thing to ask about, to know about, to be clear about, is summer funding. So summer funding is not always counted as the same thing as your regular academic funding. So from like August, September to April, May, that time is like the regular academic schedule at grad school. And in the summer, the funding for that can vary, and it could be that you'll have partial funding, it'll be that you're not funded, or it'll be that you have to be funded under your advisor, your PI, whatever it may be. But this is something that you should definitely know ahead of time. The next big financial thing I want to talk about are loans. So some people do decide to take out loans in addition to their stipend, if they are at a funded program, to cover costs of living, rent, food, whatever it may be. And this is mostly done with private loans. So it's not usually through like FAFSA, but it can. But I know a lot of times people who go this route to take loans out will do it through private loans. And this might be necessary if you have to move across country, or if you need to cover rent, if you can't afford to have a second job, if your stipend isn't covering everything it needs to cover, if you have kids or wherever it may be. But I think before you consider getting the loans, I would talk to your program, talk to your advisor, and figure out if there are other ways for you to get funding. This may not always be the case that this is possible, so it's definitely a viable option for those who may need it. But I would definitely consider talking to the people in your program and seeing if there are other ways for you to get funding, because loans can be a big thing. But if it's the only option you have, then it's still a good option, and you're still able to get your work done and just to not have a job. So another thing to consider is just loans, and if it's something that you'll need to take out. So now I'm going to be talking about the actual stipend that you receive from the program. So the amount that you can receive really will range, and it will depend on a number of factors, including your school, available funding from your PIs, and now with COVID and a bunch of other factors that could go into how much your packet may include. And from my experience, from my research, from going through the process of interviewing different programs, the amount that I've been familiar with is anywhere from like $1,300 to like $4,000. Like, it really varies, depends on where you go, the specific area you're in, even if you are in psychology. There's a number of ways to get the stipend, if it's a fellowship, an internal or external fellowship, if it's being an RA, being a research assistant on a project, probably with your PI or a research lab or some form of research opportunity, or if it's being a TA or like a teaching assistant, a grad assistant, or just teaching students, grading papers, whatever that may be. And usually, from what I understand, it's usually like based on a 20-hour work week. So you could opt to do more teaching, more research, more TAing for a higher stipend, but that just depends on that's options available to you. But those are just some of the ways that are more common to get paid. And as promised, the very last thing I will be talking about is my own experience with funding and how much I get paid for my program. So I've gotten paid on different ways. So I've gotten paid monthly and bi-weekly. That's the first thing I wanted to say, that monthly payments kind of suck, but still doable. But make sure you know that, because I was not prepared for that and that kind of like threw me off. But anyways, so my program covers the tuition, the fees, the healthcare, and then I added on dental vision to that. And so in the first semester of my program, I was on fellowship, which means I didn't have to teach, but now I am on half fellowship and half teaching. And then next year I'll go on to full teaching. So I get paid the same regardless of fellowship or if I'm teaching. But right now my stipend is about $2,800 and like about that. And I am very fortunate, very lucky to be able to be in a program that's able to fund us in this way and be able to help us out with healthcare and fees. And I do live in college town, so rent, at least for me, is fairly expensive, but with my stipend, I'm able to cover all of that and healthcare and things like that. So I'm very blessed for that. But I just wanted to be transparent about how much I get paid, because I know when I was applying for programs, I was trying to figure out how much people were getting paid, like give me some numbers, but people were really hush about that. And I can understand it, but I also think it's important to give people a realistic view of the programs and what they could be working with, especially if they don't know people in programs, if they don't have access to this information. But so I blew through all this information super quick, but I hope you were still able to get something out of it. And if you guys have any other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, if there's anything else you want me to cover in my videos, make sure you drop them down below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you share with your friends. Make sure you subscribe and do all of that good stuff. And I will see y'all next time on live.